after 2 days, I'm getting
Grieving,
better.
grieving takes a long time. I mean, grieving doesn't leave in a day or in a week or in a month.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But I don't know, Mrs. Coren, what happened. Because remember you talked to me about my dad that, he's gonna ascend gradually. My sister saw it. My sister saw it in her dream twice that my dad, it's like there's a stair, my dad steps already on it and it's going up and there is a big door, like it opened, the huge door, and there is light on it. And then my dad is like showing his hand like this towards the door and he's very proud of it and he's so smiling and it's like he wins lottery jackpot. And I told to my sister about what you told me, and then my sister said, oh, it's so amazing, so Papa is a Noahide now, he's very happy. And she saw it twice, and then she said, you don't know, Papa is so happy, I never saw him smiling like that. And then my sister said, count me on, I'm Noahide now,
I
teach
was going
me.
to say, your sister's got to become a Noahide now. Now she knows
Yeah.
it's the truth, so she wants to be a Noahide also. So you have to explain to her what it means to be a Noahide.
Yes, like,
Rejection of idolatry, rejection of.
yes. Yeah, I've been sharing it to her before, but now she proves it because I told her what you told me, and she said I saw it I saw the same thing in my dream. My Papa, it's like the stairs is like gradual. It's not like, it's like my dad stepped there and she said it's the same thing. He's smiling, Jen. He's so happy. It's so proud. It's like you never see Papa like that. He's so proud that where he's going and he's showing it to me with his hand. I'm going there because he stepped
So maybe
already.
maybe your
So
sister had this dream and not you or someone else, because your
yeah,
sister needs to see it herself, so she'll
yeah,
see the truth in it, and then she will make that commitment and move and reject idolatry and become a Noachide.
yes,
If you had the dream, it wouldn't have impacted her. Okay, whatever, your dreams, whatever. Who knows? Yeah, crazy, anyway. So have some crazy dreams. But she had the dream. And then what you told her jived with her dream. So, hey, she knows this is true. She knows this is true.
yeah, yeah. She knows it's true, and she told me she will tell also to her kids. And she told me, Jen, don't give up to some of our siblings. Never give up to them. Share them, continually sharing them, even they're rejecting it. Continually, one day they will see it like me
Just like
because
her.
now I see the truth.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So she got the dream. She was the most ready to hear it. And then you'll have two
yeah,
siblings. You have you and your sister. So gradually, gradually,
yeah,
gradually, you'll be able to reach the rest of your siblings as well. And they should all have that blessing. That blessing.
yeah.
It's a
Thank you,
blessing of
Miss Cory.
eternity, for a non-Jew, it's the most pivotal difference because it's creating that eternity. It really, really is. All right, so we had a few questions this week, and one of them was on dreams. So I thought that would be a good topic. So I have a lot of different things to talk about in terms of dreams. But there's lots, of course, different types of dreams. So I'm going to try to make it very clear, and please feel free to ask any questions as we proceed. So sometimes a person has a bad dream. That's often when they wonder about the significance of dreams if you have a bad dream. So if you have a bad dream, or any dream for that matter, but usually we think about this in terms of bad dreams, there's a rule in the Talmud. Our sages explain that a dream goes according to the interpretation. We see this from Joseph in the Bible. When Joseph had his dreams, that he wanted them to be interpreted. That he went with the first dream to his brothers, and as when he told them the dream, they interpreted for him. They weren't trying to be nice. They were like, oh, you think you're going to rule over us? But in essence, they were interpreting that the dream means he's going to rule over them. So they gave them his interpretation, which is exactly what came true. By the second dream, the brothers were a little more savvy. And when he said the dream, they didn't say anything because they didn't want to interpret it, the obvious interpretation that he was going to be the ruler. So therefore they said nothing. And then we see that he goes and tells it to his father, who then interprets it for him. Also, like, what, you're going to rule over us, but also giving the interpretation. We're told that dreams need interpretations and go according to the interpretations. So if a person has a scary dream, they should go to someone who's wise and caring, who will interpret it for them for good. I've definitely seen some very creative but sound, not like, oh, that you can't match that interpretation to that dream. No, you can definitely match it, but it's very creative because it's a very positive interpretation on what seems to be a very negative dream. So you want to go to someone wise enough and caring enough to create for you a good interpretation to your dreams. There's a very long story in the Talmud of two sages who lived in Babylonia. And the same night, they both had the exact same dream. And in those days, you go to an official dream interpreter. You're not like going to that wise, caring friend. You go to someone that's his job. And there was a very famous dream interpreter in Babylonia. Whenever you ask the dream, he'd always like open up his book and look and think, and then give you this interpretation. So the first sage comes to him and he tells him his whole long, elaborate, crazy dream. And he also paid him a lot of money because he was savvy enough to know that you want a good interpretation, you pay a lot of money. So he gave this interpreter a very nice gift. And the interpreter gave him a very beautiful interpretation for his dream, and everything came true. Shortly after that, sage number 2 comes to the same dream interpreter. And he says the exact same dream as his friend had. They both dreamt the exact same thing that night. Very long, detailed, complex dream. Exact the same, detail for detail. But this second sage was not as savvy in the ways of the world. So he didn't pay him money. He just thought, you just interpret it. That's like your job. Not that I'm paying you or never paying you something generous. He wasn't trying to be cheap. He just didn't know. And the dream interpreter got really mad at him because he didn't give him a lot of money, which is what he was used to getting. So he gave him a horrible interpretation. Horrible, horrible, horrible stuff. And everything he said came true. And whatever, it's a long story. At the end, the sage actually re-meets this dream interpreter and he opens up the book and he sees the only thing in the entire book is the dream goes according to the interpretation, which is the rule of the sages. The dream goes according to the interpretation. But it's a very poignant, painful story, actually, that really brings out this point very strongly that when you have a dream that concerns you, go to someone caring and wise and have them interpret it for good. And that interpretation will create the dream, will move the dream to that direction. Whatever it originally meant, that's what it's going to mean now. That's if you have a random negative dream. If you have a recurring negative dream, meaning you're dreaming the same thing again and again and again, then you should look around to see if there's something in your house or something in your bedroom that could be a magnet for some negative energy. And because of that anchor, because of that magnet, that's why this negativity is coming to you in your dream. There's a incident that happened once, some 200 years ago, with a man, very obviously godly, religious person, whose father passed away. And after his father passed away, the father kept coming to him in his dream. And he kept telling him to convert to Christianity. That's the truth. Now that he's in the world of truth, he knows Christianity is the truth. He should convert to Christianity. And the man is getting all, like, as we would call it, freaked out. Like, what is going on? Like, what? He knows the truth is Christianity. And he knows his father, lived a good life. And what is going on? And he spoke to various people and rabbis and friends and say more psalms, fast, give more charity. He did all of the above. Nothing helped. He went to a very leading sage at that time. His name was Vilna Gaon, who also told him, add more godliness. Nothing helped. Finally, he went to someone it was just coming out and people weren't so sure. His name was Reb Zusha. And Reb Zusha of Anipoli, who was supposedly a very godly person, was probably a very ignorant person. Not really sure what that meant, but he was pretty desperate, so he went to him. He was part of that new movement called Hasidus, which wasn't just starting at that time. There was a lot of opposition, but he was very desperate. So he went to Reb Zusha, and Reb Zusha said the problem was very simple. When your father was buried, a piece of wood chipped off from the casket, from the coffin, and fell on his body in the shape of a cross. And that's why this is happening. So you have to open up the grave and remove that piece of wood, and all will be fine. That's a very interesting thing he's telling him, because who in the world wants to open up a grave? And it wasn't like I was buried yesterday. It was already a few months at this point, but he was very desperate. So he, with friends and moral support, he unburied the father, opened up the grave, and found exactly what was just said, that on the body, a little bit of wood had chipped off and fallen on his body in the shape of a cross. And they removed that piece of wood, and he never heard any horrible stuff from his father again. So it was a very eerie thing that was going on because of this magnet of evil that was on the body, the dead body of his father. And this was a recurring dream. It happened again and again and again. And this was creating this horrible negative energy that he was receiving nightly, through the medium of the dreams. So if there's a recurring dream, a very disturbing and recurring dream, you don't just want to get a good interpretation. Of course, you always want a good interpretation. You really want to search around and see, is there something in your bedroom? Is there something in your house that could be drawing negative energy to you? Very important to see. You can find what could be the magnet for this negative energy and get rid of it. We, of course, try to protect ourselves also at night. You pray to God before you go to sleep. And you can try when you're going to sleep to have something godly and positive in your brain. Because we know, and now science knows as well, that whatever you fall asleep with, whatever you're thinking as you fall asleep, that thought is going to be circling in your brain all night long. So if you fall asleep thinking, oh, I'm so mad at so-and-so, or why did this happen to me, or anything negative, that's what's going to be regurgitating your brain all night. If you go to sleep with something godly in your head, with the thought of God or words you've studied of God, and that's what's in your brain, that's going to be the thoughts that are going to be cycling all night in your brain. That's very, 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 very powerful. Sometimes the negative dream is coming from a force of evil. There are forces of evil that could be bringing you negative dreams. They could be showing you truly what's going to happen in the future to scare you, to pain you, to bring you to sin. Or they could just be making it up and it's not true at all. But again, it's to scare you, it's to pain you, it's to bring you to sin. And a person would be susceptible to this energy, to this negative energy that could attack someone in their sleep if they sinned significantly. If they sinned by day, they did something really wrong, really against God's will by day, then they're more susceptible. They're in a weakened space. And that's why they could have this experience at night. That's why they are susceptible to being attacked. That's why they're vulnerable, because their sins open them up to evil. And therefore, these roving energies could find them a target because of the sin the person committed. And that's why, again, at night, we're in general more susceptible. And especially, again, if there was sin, that would make someone even more susceptible. Any questions, any thoughts on any of this?
Just specifically sinning that day or past history sins?
If there's sort of like regular sins the person is doing, might doesn't have to be necessarily that day, but if someone did something really horrible but 5 years ago, no, I don't think it would open them up to something that night.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other thoughts on any of this?
Not a whole lot. I mean, it all really, it really makes sense. I never really thought about uh, going to somebody and asking for an interpretation. There has been a couple of dreams in my life that I'm like, I think I really am pretty sure this means something, but what? You know, so like one dream in particular that I've thought about all my life, and it really, really impacted me, was that I dreamt that I woke up in this place, kind of dark, you know, it wasn't well lit, and I was in behind bars. I was behind bars, and a kid, you know, a kid, and I was in the home of this family that I didn't know. I didn't know who they were, and but they let me out into the rest of the house, and they had a birthday party for me, you know, and oh, you know, it was like they were just so happy that I was there, and this is a nice birthday party for you and everything, and I'm like, nice, but I don't know you. And then so they kind of, I don't know, weren't paying attention to me for a while. I knew they would not just let me walk out. And so when they were kind of busy doing something else, I slipped out, and then I ran. And I ran and I twisted and I turned so it wouldn't be easy to follow me. And I found my house where, you know, where I belonged. And my I went to the door, and my mom and brother answered the door, and the house was empty. And they were getting ready to move. They were moving. And nothing was said except they just stood there looking at me like, well, we don't know what to do with you. There's no car. There's no room in the car for you. I mean, I could like read their thoughts. They didn't say anything, but it's like, well, what are we going to do? There's no room for you. And that was where the dream ended. And it just
It's been
really,
a very harsh dream. Sounds like a lot of abandonment.
yeah. And so I didn't know,
Well, that's
you
something that
know,
like really resonated, and how it happened many, many, many years ago, and you still remember it quite clearly.
maybe it didn't seem to, you know, be
Right. So sometimes there are, again, as we're saying, the dream, that's the best thing. I got you were a child, and obviously you didn't know, obviously, but for now, as we're looking at it, if someone would have a dream, a disturbing dream, like you're sharing a very disturbing dream, that's when you're having this disturbing dream, when you would go to someone and say, this was my dream, can you interpret it? Which means, can you give me a very good, positive twist to this whole very painful, you know, dream that was very, 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 very disturbing, you know, because it was, you know, it truly was, you know, obviously, as you're saying, it's disturbing you till now.
yeah.
And there's many different ways you can, Julie, there's many different ways you could play it. I don't want to do that now in the class, but
right.
but there definitely are, when you're looking at something like that. Yeah, that's something that is exactly something that you want to really try to get to someone. I'm saying, I sometimes, when I've taught about dreams and people share dreams, and you know, it's always like somebody that has a very disturbing dream that they're going to share, and it's just amazing to me sometimes how people have such creative and positive twists to things that are, you know, very, very, very disturbing. So even if the original energy was negative, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. This is the rule. The dream goes according to the interpretation. So the fact that its original energy was negative is irrelevant. The interpretation changes the energy to this new energy. And that's what it is, and we don't worry about it. So as long as whoever you go to gives a positive interpretation, that's it. We're done. There's nothing. Well, but that's not really what it means. It's just what they said. No, that's not what the sages say. The dream goes according to the interpretation. So whatever the interpretation is, that is now the energy of this dream and nothing else.
And that would be the same as if I interpreted it myself?
No, you don't interpret it yourself. Someone else has to interpret it for you. You cannot interpret it yourself. No.
Okay.
Good question. Sorry that I wasn't clear. You cannot interpret your own dreams. Someone else has to interpret the dream for you.
Okay.
A very good point. Positive dreams. Hi, Julie. Hi, Loretta. So we're in the middle of talking about dreams. And we were just talking about negative dreams. And now we're going to talk about positive dreams. So it says that if a person works strenuously to understand God's wisdom by day, Torah by day, and they're not understanding something, but they're really working very hard at it, then the secret, the understanding can be revealed to them at night in a dream. It's very interesting because I was once teaching this to a class, like a high school class. And the girl there said, oh my gosh, it happened to my brother. You know, regular girl, regular boy, you know, not like sages and not like people that lived 300 years ago. Someone today. And she said, no, my brother was like really trying to understand something. He was driving himself crazy and us crazy all day on this piece of Torah they didn't understand. And the next morning he woke up and he said, oh, now I know, came to me in my dream, like literally. So that's a very positive dream where, again, this comes from a person who's working so hard to understand something by day and he just can't get it. And it's unlocked for him at night in his dream, because a dream is sort of like a open space where, again, as we said, it's an open space, and therefore there can be negativity in that open space because you can be more vulnerable and you can be more susceptible, but it's also open, therefore things can come to you that you would have too many barriers by day for that to come to you. Sometimes dreams are prophetic. A dream could be like a mini prophecy, meaning you could be shown something in the dream of something that is going to happen and you're being given it like a little bit of prophecy. Usually such a dream feels a little different. It doesn't feel like, you know, your regular dreams feel. It has a bit of a more substantial energy to it. It feels different. It feels like true in a certain way. So like you're sort of tuned in, like, wait, there's something going on here. Which sort of cues you in that this could be prophetic. Sometimes also in a dream, well, you know, in terms of the mini prophet, sometimes also a righteous person, a tzaddik who has passed away, can come to you in a dream, within the dream, as part of the dream, or actually for real. I actually just heard this yesterday. Someone was telling me, someone I know, a former student of mine, and she has a son with Down syndrome. And he was supposed to have cardiac surgery for the child, who's very young. Of course, it was scary. He was very young, but whatever, the doctor said no choice. And she was preparing him to prepare him a few days in advance for the surgery. And she went to sleep that night and she had a dream. In the dream, the Lubavitcher Rebbe came to her in her dream. The Lubavitcher Rebbe told her, do not have the surgery. Now, she had a lot of details in the dream, but that was the bottom line was, you know, where she was standing and what she saw. But the Rebbe said to her, clearly do not have the surgery. And she woke up very confused. And she's sort of like a pragmatic, practical person. And she's like, that was a really weird dream, but whatever. I mean, he has to have the surgery. However, you know, I don't know, maybe, you know, I don't know, whatever she went through, she said, I don't know. Anyway, that day, so now the next day, this was like, let's pretend that was Tuesday night, and now it's Wednesday. And Thursday morning early, they have to be in the hospital for the surgery. And of course, the whole day as she's preparing herself for the surgery, in the back of her head, she's thinking about this dream that the Rebbe told her, don't have the surgery. But like, she didn't know what she should do about it. She just sort of ignored it, but thought about it. So she got more concerned. Anyway, at a certain point in the day, the surgeon called her and he said, this is very unusual, But today I just sort of woke up with a very uneasy feeling about this surgery. And I reanalyzed all of the records we have. And based on everything, I decided actually we're not going to do the surgery. And they didn't do the surgery. So that was very interesting. I literally just heard this yesterday. So that's, I guess, why I'm sharing this one. But just is very interesting how the tzaddik, the Rebbe, came to her in her dream to give her a message that she didn't know how to digest, but she definitely heard it, and definitely afterwards she realized it was a real message. But then he took care of it a different way. But it could happen. I had a number of times dreams with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but one time I felt it was very real. It wasn't. It like how should I put it? It wasn't a dream. Like sometimes you feel something. It's not a dream. It was the night before one of my son's circumcisions, Shner Zalman, who's currently 16. Ready? I remember the night before his circumcision, I had a dream with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I knew it was not a dream. It wasn't a dream. It was totally real. It was very, very powerful. I remember it, and it wasn't a dream. And my husband actually had once something very interesting with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He had a dream many years ago. In this dream, he again was talking to the Rebbe, and various things came out. And one of the things the Rebbe said to him was that his son, meaning my son Mendel, who's currently 30, he was then a very young boy, should learn all of the Rebbe's works of a certain title, of which there are like over 30 volumes. And he was telling my husband about this very little boy, maybe he was a baby then, or a year or two old, very young, that he should learn all of these volumes. Okay, it was his dream, and it was very real, it was very powerful, but he didn't do anything with it. I mean, at least definitely not to my son Mendel, who was a very little child at the time. Many years later, let's fast forward like 20 some years, and my oldest son Mendel, who was in this dream, or the Rebbe had given my husband this instruction for him in the dream, was sharing with his brother, his next brother, my second son Naftali. You know, he had completed studying all of these volumes, this whole set of like over 30 volumes of talks of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. He had learned every single one, which is a very unusual and big accomplishment, like very like, wow. People don't usually learn actually every single talk in every single volume. And Naftali heard it, and my husband had at one point shared the dream with Naftali. My husband never shared the dream with Mendel, my older son, who the dream was about. And Naftali said, well, that's so amazing, because when you were a little kid, father had a dream that the Rebbe told him to tell you to do that. And he never told that to you, but you did it. So it was very powerful, that like energy of this dream, that even though my husband never conveyed the message to my son, somehow the message got conveyed, and on his own, without knowing the dream, he did this very unusual and, big task. Whatever, there's many such stories of people that just really, that the Rebbe's come to them in dreams, and really, there's so many. There was a woman, she was like the maid in a Chabad house. A Chabad house is a place of emissaries of the Rebbe that work there, bringing godliness to all people in that area. And she was very instrumental and really was very helpful, and really helped the woman of the house being able to run it, which is of course a very big job with lots of guests all the time and meals and in and out. It was very, and then she said she's leaving. She came from some foreign country. She wanted to go back home. And the woman was like devastated and begged her to stay and offered her more money. Nothing doing. You're wonderful. I'm not trying to get more money from you. I just really I really want to go back home. You were wonderful to work for. You're great people. I love you, but I just want to go back home. So, okay, the woman was so broken, and she started praying to God. I really need this lady to stay. I don't have a replacement, and I don't know how I'm going to function without her. Anyway, during this time, this woman, this maid, had a dream. And Lubavitcher Rebbe came to her in her dream. Now, she didn't know who it was, but she knew his picture because she's in a Chabad house, so she knows that picture. And he came to her and he said that, I hear you were leaving. And she's like, yeah, I want to go back home. And the Rebbe said, no, you should understand what you're doing is very critical work, because this place where you work for, this is bringing godliness to all the people in this area. She said, okay, but I want to go back home. He said, but if you leave, it's not going to function as well. And that's going to, it's like, this is your mission right now in life. You're here to help the people, to help run this place, and to help bring godliness to all these people. By you working here, you're helping make this happen. So the Rebbe said, you know what I think you should do? This is all a conversation in her dream. The Rebbe said, I think you should go home for a visit. Go home for a visit, but then come back. And then she wakes up and she's like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And she knew it was real. She knew it wasn't a dream. And she knew his face from the pictures. So she just, whenever she went, she told the lady, oh my gosh, the Lubavitch Rebbe came to you in a dream. And so she listened. She went home for a visit, and then she came back and continued working for them. And there's countless stories I could say. So I'm just going to stop now for selfie stories. but there's many times where a tzaddik, where a very, very righteous, godly person can come in a dream to communicate with you, to give you a message, to give you guidance, to give you instruction. And I'm saying there are many such stories. I know I've had a dream with the Rebbe's wife, the Rebbe Chaim Mushka. I felt very close after that dream to her. I had a very long, very real dream. Countless stories. There was once a woman, actually, this was when the Rebbe would go buy dollar, when people could go buy the Rebbe physically in front of the Rebbe. And a woman once came to the Rebbe and said, you came to me in my dream. And you said to me, whatever he said, Egozim. What did you mean? And the Rebbe told her. So it's, there's somebody I know, his name, he's since passed away, a very special person. His name was Rabbi Barkan. He's from Israel. He was an older Russian, originally from Riga, from Latvia, been in Israel for many, many years, a special person, very, very special person. He was very close to my sister and brother-in-law. So he had come to New York to visit with the hub, it's the center. It was by the Rebbe for the holidays. And when he was leaving, again, in those days, you could go by the Rebbe and get $1 and a blessing. And he was a very special person. As he goes by, the Rebbe gives him an extra $1 and says, this is for Brazil. Okay, he leaves. He's Russian and Israeli. He's not American at all. He doesn't know much. He has no clue where Brazil is and what Brazil is. He leaves and he says to my brother-in-law, I'm going to Brazil. My brother-in-law is, what are you going to do in Brazil? He said, I don't know, but I just walked by the Lubavitch Rebbe by the dollar line. And the Rebbe gave me the regular $1 he gives to everyone. And he gave me an extra $1. And he said, this is for Brazil. So I'm going to Brazil. So he went to the travel agent and he changed his ticket. And instead of flying back home to Israel, he flew to Brazil. And he comes to Brazil and he has no clue what to do in Brazil. And he got connected to the Chabad rabbis that were in the main city, Palo Alto of Brazil. And I don't know, he knows everyone wants to be in Brazil. So he figures he has some mission to do. So he's in Brazil a day, 2 days. And finally, one of the rabbis said to him, you know, what, like, why are you here? He's like, I don't know, the Lubavitch Rebbe sent me here. I passed by the Rebbe. He said, this is for Brazil. I know he wants me to be in Brazil. So he said, well, you know what? It's interesting because you're originally from Riga. He was originally from Riga, from Latvia. And there's a family here from Riga, from Latvia. And maybe the Rebbe wants you to connect to them. I mean, there's not too many people here from Riga, from Latvia. So he said, okay. He connected to them. He called. I'm from Riga. You're from Riga. He was a very friendly, warm person. Maybe I go over. We'll hang out. We'll share memories. Sure, come. You know, they were so happy to meet him. So he comes. He's warm. He's friendly. He's talking to them. And they're like, you know, it's interesting. You just happen to pop into Sao Paulo, Brazil. You never see anyone here from Riga, from Latvia, and you're so religious. We're not very religious. We're Jews, but not really so religious. But we actually have a problem. And the problem is that our daughter is seriously involved with a non-Jewish man and is planning to marry him. And of course, non-Jewish marry Jews, but we can't convince her to break it up. And maybe you could talk to her. He said, sure, of course. And he goes to talk to her. And she was totally disinterested. And he's warm and friendly and caring and telling her all these stories, his self-sacrifice for Judaism in Russia. She couldn't care less. She was being polite. She's a nice person. He was an elderly gentleman. So she was polite, but like 100% checked out. And he really didn't know what to do. And he understood this is why he was in Brazil. God sent him to Brazil to speak to this girl, and he is 100% not succeeding because she is not listening and not interested, and he is not reaching her. You know when you reach someone, and you know when you don't. He knew he wasn't reaching her. And finally, he was a little desperate. He didn't know what to do, so he pulled out of his wallet a picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Because the Lubavitcher Rebbe had sent him here. The Lubavitcher Rebbe gave him the dollars to go to Brazil. So he said, do you know, he shows her this picture, a little picture of the Rebbe. He said, do you know, this rabbi lives in New York. And this rabbi can't sleep this is the expression he used. He said, this rabbi can't sleep at night because of you. Like, in other words, he's sending me, who I live in Israel, to Brazil because of you. He can't sleep at night because of you. He's so worried for you. Like, just whatever. He didn't know what else to do. She looks at the picture and she said to him? You know this person? He's like, yeah. He said, he comes to me every night in my dream. Every night he comes to my dream and tells me to break off this wedding. And that like opened it up. She opened up, and thank God it was she did stop the relationship, and she was able to reconnect her Jewish roots. And Rabbi Bar Khan came another time to Brazil to officiate at her wedding to a person that was appropriate for her. So it was just a very strong story, especially because I know him personally. And my brother-in-law remembers exactly what happened. He said, I'm going to Brazil. I don't know where Brazil is, but I'm going to Brazil, to help this. So, the tzaddik, the righteous person can come at night in the dream, but we also have to be open to hear it. There's another thing that can happen in dreams, and that's time that someone that we love who passed away can come to us in a dream. Again, so what I was talking until now, just to make it clear in our head the difference is, so there's the idea of the secrets of Torah revealed to you in the dream. There's the idea of the mini prophecy in the dream. There's the idea of the godly, holy person like the Lubavitcher Rebbe coming to you in the dream. And then there's the idea of someone that you love, like a parent, a grandparent, someone in your life personal to you who comes to you in your dream. And usually that point, just as Jenny was sharing when we started, is reassurance. That's usually the point of such a dream. It's like very, very comforting. And generally the message is, I'm okay. I'm in a good place. I'm okay. I know you're in pain. Don't worry about me. I'm okay. Sometimes, of course, there's a very specific message. Like sometimes people come to relatives in dreams to like say, I owe so-and-so this amount of money, pay them back. Because right now, like I'm suffering, or I'm going to endure suffering because I owe this small amount of money and I meant to pay them back and I never paid them back. Go to so-and-so. Or sometimes also, it's very interesting, this happened in the summer with someone I know. Sometimes the person doesn't come directly to you in the dream, but comes to someone else to give you the message. Because maybe you're not in a space then like even, they can't come to you directly. As just happened this summer, a very close friend of mine passed away very suddenly. It was shocking. Like literally her husband came home from work and found her gone on the floor. They don't even know what happened. A heart attack, a stroke, they have no clue. Very, very, very shocking. I was very close to her. I mean, she was a good friend of mine, I guess you could say. And it really, it hurt. So I was a lot after a passing in the Jewish faith. We have a week of mourning, and I came many times during that week to be with the family. I knew many of the children, whatever. When I was there, I heard there's a woman in our community, not a close friend at all of this woman who passed away. I mean, not an enemy, I don't mean that, but just like, it's a big community. There's, over 100 families. So they knew each other, but no personal connection. She had never been in her house. Talking about, I'll say the names just to make it so we don't lose some of the pronouns. My friend that passed away's name is Faggy. This woman's name is Lakey. Lakey, not a specific friend of Faggy. Lakey never, ever in all the years had ever been in Faggy's house. You know, people know, obviously nice, polite, but no specific connection. Lakey comes to the family during the week, and she said to them, I had a dream. She said, last night your mother, who when passed away, came to me in the dream. And she wanted me, and I dreamt, she said, in my dream, I saw this room. I've never been in your house before. I saw the room. And I saw all of you. And she didn't know the family so well. She wasn't close with the mother. I saw all of you sitting around. And I saw your mother. And I saw your mother going to each one of you and talking to each one of you and giving blessings to each one of you. And she started telling them in detail everything the mother said. And it was like the most like, oh my gosh, eerie feeling. And of course it was like, why in the world did Faggy go to her? You know, like, what's the connection? But then the thought was maybe because of that, that's why Faggy went to her. Maybe if I'm just saying, so to speak, someone like me who knows the room, who knows the kids, I had such a dream. Well, maybe it might, maybe it was just a dream. Maybe I just dreamt it. But this woman who'd never been in Faggy's house, never saw the room, didn't really know the kids. When she's saying what she saw in her dream, they knew it was real. They knew that literally here she saw their mother. They can't see their mother talking to them now, but she saw the mother going to each one and talking to them and giving them her love and her blessings and her comfort. So sometimes a person that passed away can come to you in the dream. And sometimes it'll even go to someone else because that might even give it more credence. It might even give it more power. And again, generally such dreams are dreams to comfort, but sometimes some dreams are like instructions, like I said, some sort of a classical thing that could happen. Like, I didn't pay this debt. Please pay it for me because right now it's a disturbance. It's blocking me. This debt that I never paid, or this promise I made that I never fulfilled. But generally, it's a comfort, and I've had that many, many times. I remember once I had a dream. I had many, many dreams with my father, dreams with one set of grandparents, dreams with my aunt I was very close to who passed away. It was once very unusual. I dreamt about my other set of grandparents who I was close to, but I never ever dream of, never. And I woke up and I'm like, that's so unusual that I dreamt about them. Today must be a special day for them. And I checked, and it was the birthday. Was that grandparent's birthday. And I figured, okay, so their energy was very strong. So they were able to come to me in this dream. A woman I know, after her mother passed away, she had a dream. This was shortly after her mother passed away. And she had a dream. This was very shortly after, so she was still in a lot of pain. A lot of pain, because, over time the pain subsides, but she was still in a lot of pain. And she had a dream. And in the dream, she saw her mother in this beautiful, beautiful location. Gorgeous place. She's never seen it before. And the mother was smiling. She's like, oh, maybe this is what heaven looks like. I don't know. The mother was smiling and happy. And she just took it as okay. Her mother was telling her, I'm fine. And she woke up and she told her sister, she's her and her sister, I had this dream with mom, and there's a beautiful location, and she's so happy, and she's good. She's in a good place. 5 years later, this woman's niece got engaged 5 years later. And this niece was very close to the mother that passed away, to her grandmother. And she was having what we call nowadays a destination wedding. And the destination was Jamaica. So this woman, this friend of mine, she flew to Jamaica for her niece's wedding. She's never been to Jamaica in her life. And when she gets off the plane and she goes outside the terminal and she sees Jamaica, she's like, oh my gosh, this was the place I was in my dream. She recognized it, said, this was my dream, exactly Jamaica. And she realized that 5 years before, her mother, who was so close to this granddaughter, who was now getting married in Jamaica, her mother was already like in a certain sense there. Her mother was already in that place. Her mother was giving her the message, not just I'm okay, it's going to be okay. It's all okay. 5 years later, the girl's getting married, but the grandmother's already in that space. So I don't know if anyone's had that experience besides me, anyone here has had that experience after someone they were close to passed away that came to them in their dream? Of course, Jenny just shared with her father to her sister twice.
Yes, me. It was kind of after something sad. My youngest daughter one day kind of went missing. She lived with she had roommates. She lived with another girl, and this girl called me in the evening and said, "Is Jessica with you?" And I said, "No, was she supposed to be?" And she said, "Well, we haven't seen her since, such and such a time. And that's really unusual. Her purse is still here, all her stuff is still here. I don't have a very, very good feeling about this." And so I'm like, okay, well, let me get myself together. I'll come down there, and so we looked as long as we could look that night. And it was very late. It was in the wee hours of the morning when I finally was able to go to sleep. And my daughter came to me, my youngest daughter came to me in a dream, and she was walking across this sunlit field, grass, flowers, the scene. And she was smiling, and she looked at me and she said, "Mom, I'm fine." And then I woke up and I had this feeling. I knew, but I thought, okay, well, maybe it was, maybe it's not that way. So I thought, I'm still going to go look. And I got up in the morning and I went and looked, and the police were looking and everybody was looking, and then they called later in the evening and they said they found her. But it didn't hit me as hard because she had already come to me the night before and said, like, "Why are you worrying about me? Why are you looking?" That was the tone of voice. "Why are you worried? I'm fine." And so there was that. But then I kind of took things to a wrong place later on. I didn't really realize it later on. I thought, I hear about these people saying that their loved one come to a dream, and I miss my daughter. I want to see my daughter in a dream. So I focused and I focused and I focused before I went to bed. I focused on her and I thought about her, and I thought about having a visit with her. And then when I went to sleep, sure enough, I did have a dream about her, but it was not very nice. We were in a dark room. She was in a bed and she was very, very frail. I mean, I had to be so careful to touch her. If I even just moved a little bit, she would just fall apart, and her friends were sitting there in the dark, and it was just gloomy. And so after that, I thought, I am not doing this again. She said she was fine. I need to leave her be. And
what you're saying is very, very tragic. And I know that dream was meant to comfort you, and I'm glad it eased it a bit, but you're also bringing actually a very important point. We never try to bring someone to us. That's actually forbidden. It's absolutely forbidden. And again, you did exactly what one would do, or there's other things also, to try to bring someone to us. It's forbidden. We don't do it. And there's a lot of impurity attached to it. Obviously, you didn't know. Obviously, I'm not at all saying this in any blaming way. I'm just saying to clarify why the energy you accessed was such negative energy, because we don't do that. It's coming only from a very, very, very evil place. Death has a lot of evil attached to it, and you're going to the death. And that's why it was so negative, as versus the message that you were given initially, which was just, preparing you and giving you like a little solace and,
And I should have just left it at that.
But that's what you're going to think of. When you're thinking, you're going to think of that one and her coming and the comfort and her giving you that message that I'm okay. And that's what we think about. And we never try to bring people to us at night. People that passed away never try, but they can choose to come.
It was kind of obvious that she came because I wanted, because I wanted it, but it was not nice.
Not coming from a good place. Exactly.
No.
Exactly. God, in essence, uses dreams as a medium of communication. God could give us many messages in a dream. And the original dream that Beck experienced could have been her daughter's energy and could have been God's energy. Just God giving you that message. It's going to be very painful. No, she's okay. And I'm saying very often when people come in dreams to us that passed away, that's the message they want to give us. I'm okay. Don't worry. I know you're in pain. I know you're grieving. I want you to know I'm okay. But then again, it could also be other very specific messages. Anyone else have had that experience after someone passed away that was very beloved to them, that they came to them in a dream?
I didn't have one, but my sister did, of my mom.
So your sister had that after your mom passed away.
Yep.
And then she shared it with you so you could also gain comfort.
Yeah.
From it.
She saw her she said she was a little bit younger, very healthy, and she had on this really flowy dress, and she was dancing in a field of flowers. And she was happy as can be.
And that was the message she wanted you to know. She's happy. She's fine. That was the message. Okay, so we're going to stop at this point. So what we did tonight was we spoke about negative dreams, the concept of the dream going according to the interpretation. So make sure you get a good interpretation. Constant negative dreams, and then search your house. Is there some evil? Is there some negative something that's a magnet? And why you're being attacked by this negative energy? Things to do to protect yourself, like having something godly in your brain before you go to sleep and keep reviewing it until you fall asleep. And then the idea of the positive dreams, the revealing the secrets, the mini prophecy, the great godly person coming into the dream to counsel you or give you a message or give you a piece of wisdom, and somebody who you love that passes away that comes to you in a dream, which again, generally is the idea. Sometimes it's a specific request from you, but generally the idea is most of the time it's to give you comfort. Okay, so we're going to stop at this point, to be continued, where I'm going to go through various signs. It says in the Talmud of many, many different things, what it means if you see it in your dream. So there's many, many, I didn't give you everything the Talmud says because there's so many things it lists, but I picked 2 pages worth of just different signs. If you see this in your dream, this is what it means. If you see this in your dream, this is what it means. And then the whole dream concept and how it relates to the redemption. So tomorrow night is Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. And it is, as we discussed, there was already a few classes ago, not last week, but the week before that. So you had time to prepare yourself. It is the day when we coronate God as King. It is the day of judgment for the entire world. And it's really a time when I'm judged and you're judged. All mankind is judged. The entire world, angels are judged. Every level of the year is written out. And as we discussed, to try to take as much time as you can over the next Monday night, Tuesday, and Wednesday to pray, and primarily to say Psalms, to say as many Psalms as you can. That's what I'm going to be doing besides praying, is saying as many Psalms as I can. And just to know the Psalms bring down kindness and compassion for you, for your loved ones, for whoever you're praying for, because we're all going to be written and inscribed over Monday night, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So it should be written and inscribed for a good year. It's all from God, so he's good. But we want it to be revealed good, that we can understand is good. So we should all be written and inscribed for a good, sweet year of revealed good. So I hope you have a very meaningful Rosh Hashanah, Monday night, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then God willing, we'll meet next week, Sunday night, which will be a little bit before Yom Kippur, when whatever was written on Rosh Hashanah gets sealed. So even after Rosh Hashanah, if you feel, oh, I wanted to do better, but I couldn't get off from work, or I couldn't focus well enough, or these distractions came up, you really can take that week between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to keep turning to God, saying the Psalms, your prayers, to be written and inscribed for you and for all those you're praying for a good, sweet new year. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meaningful Rosh Hashanah.
Sameach.
Thank you. Chag Sameach, Shana Tova, a good, sweet new year for all of us. It's been a hard year on many levels. It should be a good year.
Amen.